So, Casey, how you been, man? It's been a while since you've been on here.
Good. Trying my best to push the show out, get bigger and bigger, and
yeah, We're Live just got on Nerdist podcast. You guys were dealing with them a little bit before, right?
Yeah, it was. We did a couple special events with them with like Nerd Melt, which is their little like comic book store, the back room. We were one of the first people like that used it, and it was like it's a real cramped, small space. Well, you've been there before, right?
No, I've never been there.
Have you?
No.
Yeah, it's like really small. Like it almost feels like maybe double the size of this room.
Right.
And like we did a live show there a long time ago because I met Chris Hardwick and we talked a little bit. And he's like, "Hey, I'm starting this new thing. You guys want to do a show here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be great." So we did it. But we fit like 130 people in this small area. Air conditioning wasn't working, and it was like people were just like pouring sweat. It was
seems like there's not enough air to breathe.
No, it was bad.
What you're describing.
It was so bad, but nobody left. Everyone's just dripping sweat in the seats.
When it's a live event, you guys are just reenacting an episode? Is that what's going on?
Well, we've done it twice so far. The first one was at Nerd Melt, and then we have all the characters like lined up in a row, and then we have our soundtrack piped in, and the whole show's timed.
Right.
So like they're watching a little counter down there on the bottom, and it's like, oh, okay, well as long as I hit my mark, and they have on the scripts like, oh, hit that line at 2:07. Blah blah blah.
So the sound effects are already in there, and so they're.
So
they could mess up and be like, "It looks like we're safe," you know.
Yeah. So if their timing goes off, they're screwed. But then again, that also can keep them in line. But it gets really hairy. Like the last one we did at a bigger venue. We got like it's 300 seats in there, and it was really nice. But the problem is, like a week before we had the live show, one of our actors got cast in a huge film with like Denzel Washington in Louisiana.
Oh wow!
So he's like, I can't make it. And I'm like, we had the venue already booked, tickets sold, and he's the main character. So it's like,
yeah.
So we had to pipe him in live streaming from Louisiana on like interacting with everyone else on stage via the internet while we're also broadcasting a live stream online. It was the craziest thing.
So is that kind of how this whole thing came about? Like Chris knew the show and then secret talks behind closed doors.
It was actually, weirdly enough, it was one of those things where Blair and I, we went to go see one of his comedy shows, and like we waited afterwards and gave him one of our disc sets.
Right.
And he was really cool about it, and so that was like the planting of the seed. We met him later on another event for a Comic-Con premiere thing, and like it just talk, and one day I'm like, you know what? He's getting all these different podcasts. I wonder if he's interested in distributing We're Live. So I'm like, and he's like, yeah, here, forwarded this to my manager. Let's make this happen.
Oh, badass, man. Yeah. Well, congrats. That's awesome.
It was weird how easy it was.
Yeah, so
I mean, all it took was trying.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, right. All they could do is tell you no.
Right.
That's a huge hurdle in life. It's just asking people for stuff.
Isn't that weird? It's so easy once you do it, but before you do it, it's kind of like, ugh.
I don't know. I don't want to be that guy that's like waiting after a show to give you... But it could pay off. So, But I've learned something really interesting is only do 1 or 2 lines in an email. That's it. Don't do any more than that.
That's interesting. I've heard that before. Keep it quick, short, because people don't read all their emails all the time.
No, if it's 2 sentences. My email to Chris was 2 sentences long. Like, hey, I saw you getting a whole bunch of podcasts. Would you be interested in grabbing We're Alive? That was it.
Nice.
And he's like, yeah, let's make this happen.
Badass.
I was like, all right, cool. I didn't have to write you a whole pitch, scheme, blah, blah, blah. It was just short, sweet, to the point.
Well, I mean, you do the fine print later, I guess, after they've kind of been like, that sounds like a good idea.
Like, hey, this interests you, then we can work the details out later. And it took like 3 months for contracts and stuff.
Right.
Sure. And now you're on a bigger network now. I guess it's more visibility. Is there another benefit to that? Are they paying you?
Advertising.
Advertising.
That's huge because... that was the big thing for us was we were managing our own advertising, and that got a little bit hairy because we were like having to go and get people, and now they're going to manage all that stuff. They're going to take a cut, but it just goes like, hey, if you're going to manage your advertisers and you can bring in bigger advertisers and take a bigger cut, that's okay because we were doing smaller.
As long as the bottom line is more money.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'm perfectly fine with that. And the cool thing is as we'll do more and more episodes in our final season, we're going to grab more people just because they're going to be distributing us. So we'll get more listeners. We'll get more advertising revenue based on
Have you guys already gotten a bump by any chance?
It hasn't been huge.
Been a show yet, right?
Yeah, we haven't produced a new episode since December. But
have they announced it?
Yeah, they have. They're doing small disseminations. Until we produce the new episodes, I don't think it's ever going to really get big on their network. But once that happens, I can imagine the ball is going to start rolling and start grabbing more people.
I always am curious about this. Do you get people asking to be on the show?
Every day.
Right.
Every day
Is
I get
that tough?
an email that's
Thank God you brought that up, Sean, because I have a voice.
Oh, motherfucker.
You cast Tony
Casey,
Ray.
I can just
Come
give
on.
you a ton of Josh drops. You can have them.
All right.
I will say this much, though. I do tap spectacles like no other when it comes to, hey, you guys.
That's awesome.
You guys, can I borrow your voices? There's been shows where I'm in the back, with my little hand recorder, hey, I need some B-roll for this episode I'm producing Monday.
Right.
You guys minding doing this scene here? Here's a couple lines. And James was doing it. James and Graham were doing it from Cherry Spits, one night backstage, and just hey, can I get you guys?
That's awesome.
It is awesome. I'm always thrilled when I'm listening to the show because I'm a fan.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my gosh! Because Sean had a great bit with Tony as the helicopter guys. It was really good. It was good comedy.
It was awesome. Because we go in there and you let us just kind of riff, which is so fun. You kind of give us the bass lines. You go, in this area, just riff a little bit. And I was kind of I'm all nervous. We're in this weird sound stage. Yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah, I will say, as a teaser to season 4, there will be a little bit more of that.
Oh, awesome.
That's my teaser for season 4, because you were one of the very weird characters that wasn't planned out that actually survived and showed up at the end, and it's oh, hey.
Right.
Still around.
Greg Muldoon.
Not like Wargo. Showed up and then killed.
Oh man, he was the running dick of the show. Everyone hated him.
Steven.
Steven.
Hey, we trying to get some sleep here.
Right.
That's how it started too. And then I'm like, you know what? I got to write more because I'm loving writing the dick.
How do you deal with it? When people ask to be on the show, do you kind of go, look?
What I say is, and I get a lot of people who send me their resumes and things like that, and they're like, "Hey, here's my headshot," and I'm like, "Yay!"
Headshot. I have a specific look for this radio show.
It's weird. It's people don't understand. I'm listening for voices and things like that, but also at the same time, I tend to want to get people who know nothing about the show.
Right.
Because I don't want to have anybody coming in and have with precognition of what's going on. It's hey, here's your scene. Because a lot of if you've been listening to the show for a while, you might have a middle confuddledness, or you might get nervous. And I was I like taking people who don't know what's going on.
Right.
That makes sense because then they don't have to compartmentalize their knowledge. They're just coming in; they only know what's in front of them. They can only perform the knowledge that character would actually have.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
And in front of all the other actors who are regulars on the scene, if you're a fanboy of the show and you're trying to interact with these people, you probably won't perform very well.
Right.
It happens. It's not a big deal, but it's it's nice. It's oh, you've never done this before? Let's come and do this.
Right.
Sure.
So we got some Facebook questions for you, Casey.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, some. Andy, you got those up? Where are they at?
I do.
All right, go ahead.
Let's see. I think this was kind of just fielded, but Charlotte asked, do you have any plans for Sean's character in the next season of We're Alive?
Oh, yeah.
Any possibility of a Jesus Christ from Sean as an Easter egg?
You know what? I love that saying so much. I probably am going to work it in there somehow.
Really?
I will be honest. I've got a couple instances in mind. But no, he's definitely in the next season.
Awesome.
And I got some big plans. Pretty much everything in season 4 is done and planned now, so it's all set. Who lives, who dies, everything.
You got it all mapped out. Mm-hmm. So I saw a little post. It was you got bubble charts, and I couldn't imagine keeping it all.
6 months of planning.
I would have, the continuity would have been just shot with me. I would have brought back somebody I forgot I killed or something.
It's hard to do that.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, Andy T.
Okay, more people are asking about spoilers. Can we expect a season packed to the gills with Kelly and Mr. Whiskas? Also, will you finally reveal your plan for season 5? I know you keep saying there won't be a season 5, but we all know that's an obvious lie. Roger.
Okay, well, let me clarify. There is no season 5. It's done after season 4.
I gotta be honest. I doubt you. I think there's a season 5. For conspiracy theorists out there, I just saw it as notepad. Season 5 circled 1,000 times.
That's his planning. Just the word season 5. Yeah.
I draw a little bubble.
6 months of circling.
The story's going to run out. There's no more past season 4. So
right.
It's and a lot of people are like, well, why don't you do any more? And then I have other stories to tell. So it's like a part of the reason why you want to end early in a way, not early, but at the right spot, is we have a cast of 88 people.
Right.
And to think that they're all going to be part of this for an extended amount of time, but we're going to be like going on our 5th year.
Right.
And we've had people move away. It's like it's hard to keep a cast together, especially when we pay them as little as we do.
So you said you have other stories to tell. So after We're Live, is there more planned for something completely new?
Oh yeah, I got
in the same genre, audio.
I don't know. I got stories to tell. I don't know the medium to tell them.
Right.
Like I have a series that I want to pitch for TV. It's a little bit more original than We're Alive because We're Alive, and the part of the thing about We're Alive that drives me nuts is it's based off of zombies.
So you get a lot of shit for not being a zombie nerd?
Yes. And it's like people come to the show with precognition of, oh, what a zombie is. I get people bitching me like, what, you call yourself the zombie podcast? There's no zombies in this show. And I'm like,
God, welcome to the internet.
No, it's a story of survival.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And the zombies is in quotes. So
right.
It was a great way to get people. And I think now that we have a good fan base and people know that we can tell a good story, the next one, which is not really based off of anything that's like preconceived.
Yeah.
Vampires. It's vampires.
Yeah, it's not.
Vampires? Glittery vampires.
It's not that. But I will say, though, that I am fascinated with the world that I've created with We're Alive. So I might do some side stories for fun. Of things that don't happen on the show. Like, a teaser for something like that is inside the show, there's a boat that just showed up on shore that was disabled.
Yeah.
I had a whole side story, an entire huge character plot and all this other stuff going on that doesn't fit into the story of We're Alive, but would be great for another drama.
Very cool.
And there was one more that I haven't even mentioned before, so this is really...
Scoop it.
Is a bus full of survivors who were going somewhere in a bus, and everything happened, and they're kind of like stuck together, and it's like don't get off the bus, so to speak, and they're like just traveling around until they run out of gas. It's
Heart
really cool.
of darkness in a bus.
I couldn't imagine how I would be in a zombie. I would probably sit in that closet for a long ass time. Like, could you imagine what you would do in it?
I can't go from like the amount of pornography I have now to cold turkey now.
Right.
Oh my God! Right.
I gotta save. I gotta get my like Playboys or something. I gotta get some hard copy porn.
Yeah.
It's gonna go back to the '80s. It's like VHS.
Right.
Know?
I'm gonna have to stick to my imagination.
Battery operated DVD players. Yeah. Imagination.
No.
It's a dark future. But you know what? I will say this much: in that kind of world, breeding is going to be like almost like mandatory. Like, oh, hey, we're genetically completely opposites. We got to do this. So,
and what's crazy too is because I have kids. Like, you think when you have kids, what kind of world are they coming into? And to be in that kind of world and to have a kid is a totally unique thing. Like, because it's not about that. You know they're going to struggle. Yeah. You know their life's going to be shitty. As opposed to, they got a 50-50 shot of having a decent life here.
Right.
And they won't know of a time that was easy. So it's like...
So maybe they wouldn't even know.
Well, that would help them. Yeah.
They make them harder.
They wouldn't know what they're missing.
Yeah.
You know, they wouldn't have tasted the joys of pornography.
The vast, dark, deep black hole of internet pornography.
Like, it'd be like... Gather around, children. Let me tell you about the days when we could just watch whatever we wanted, fucking whatever we wanted.
Can you imagine what that would be like? Like, how can you explain to a kid that there was online videos of people doing animals and stuff? Like, that was a thing that actually, like, was part of the internet, and people dressed up in furry costumes. It's like, how do you explain that to a child?
Just think of we've gone to places that are so crazy, like furries and the weird stagecoach thing where the girl dresses up like a horse.
2 girls, 1 cup.
2 girls, 1 cup. It's only going to get worse. Like, it's going to get broader, and the spectrum's going to get, like, even more finer, and we're going to branch off into weird, even crazier things. Eventually, it's just going to be a guy staring. Be like, man, I just love jacking off to that guy staring.
You know what? There's something very close right now. There are girls reading poetry while sitting on this vibrating thing.
A
so they actually are orgasming while they're reading poetry.
Quoth the raven, nevermore.
I will say this much though, it's pretty cool.
Yeah?
It's like you're watching these faces of these girls, and they're trying to fight it and still read, and it is weirdly like
they're really into poetry.
it's weirdly erotic.
Robert Frost gets me off.
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day?
Oh, I may have to check that out.
Well, check out while you're doing that. The polar opposite of that is lasagna farts or whatever.
Cake farts.
There's cake
farts.
meatloaf farts.
Meatloaf farts.
There's a
cake
meatloaf
farts.
fart, yeah.
It's just naked girls sitting on cakes and ripping ass.
It's a different kind of poetry.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's weird and crazy.
Mine was mildly normal.
Nah. Well, yeah, sure.
You got any more Facebook questions, Andy T?
We got one more. It's a really super long question. If you ever decide to remake We're Alive in other media, such as film, TV, games, or books, aside changing the presentation to fit the new media, would you change the story so it would be fresher to the fans of the audio drama, or would you treat it like a filmmaker would if he were making a movie based on a book to which many people already know the plot and ending?
This is kind of the Kirkman thing, because I know you're not familiar with any of it, but he has a comic book for his version of the zombie thing, The Walking Dead, and then in the show he changes major plot stuff, and like people get upset.
Yeah, I would be true to my rules.
Yeah,
I wouldn't change the dynamics. I might change the some things little bit here and there, but for the most part, if I establish something in one world, why would I change it for another?
Yeah,
I would probably do the Game of Thrones thing, where it's like they would change it just enough to make it work in that medium, but yet consistently the stories and characters and things don't really change. It's complementary.
You would
instead of
adapt
conflicting.
Yeah. Oh.
very cool.
Because it's like, well, if I want to do things more in that medium, like if I wanted to say for We're Alive, I want to do a We're Alive comic book or We're Alive movie, it has to be, has to fit in that world.
Yeah. Is there, but I mean, along those lines, which I thought the question was going to be, is there something you would go back to season 1 and make a fundamental change on something that's been provided difficulty for you?
My writing style would be different, just because, like, writing 36 chapters, I've gained so much more experience of how to write for characters and how to direct people that I would go back and do things a little bit differently in terms of,
but no plot. It would just be execution.
Yeah, there's nothing that has been in the We're Alive world so far that I've really wanted to change. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. There might be a couple of minor things here and there, but pretty much everything's, because it was all plotted out so much ahead of time that it's been pretty easy to keep things along.